Yeah, yeah, yeah. So many lies that you hear from the net, they don't get her respect. She reporting the truth, not a check. You want an unbiased opinion straight from the chest, not a bit accomplice or someone here for a check. Tune in, these are thoughts from a lawyer on a mission who goes so hard it's like she works on commission. Trolls in the comments might say she tripping cause they lack the knowledge, they don't know they missing. Got a couple current events that you like, wanna know about law from the eyes. Tired of all these blogs running lies because their agendas are disguised. Tune in to the intellect, cause I'm sure y'all missing all the facts of the case that she steady is gifting. Someone here for the people, man, it's so uplifting. If you ain't subscribed yet, then you just omitting facts.
Hello, everyone. It is Pam Esquire, also known as your law intellect. Yes, I am back. As I told you guys who were here for the live early this morning, we have 24 hours before the adult survivor statute expires. It expires November 24th of 2023. And I predicted that we would be getting lawsuits that will be filed to make this statute for those that have accused other persons. We've seen a politician earlier, we've seen entertainers that have accused them of any type of SA type assaults back in the day. Well, guys, we have another one, and this is an actual complaint that was filed today. So while some of you guys were stirring the greens and mixing the cheese and the macaroni, these lawyers was out here typing up a lawsuit against Sean Puffy Combs. Yes, Sean, who started this whole domino effect last week with this Cassie lawsuit, has another lawsuit that has been filed against him. This lawsuit is very detailed. There are a lot of allegations that are in this lawsuit. And there are a few names that are mentioned in this lawsuit of individuals in the industry that this person is alleging may have information or knew that this occurred or happened to her. And so we're going to read that lawsuit. Again, it was filed today. You guys know that the courts are closed. So you're going to see at the bottom of the lawsuit, as what happened with the Jamie Foxx lawsuit filed yesterday, where the notice that was filed yesterday and the notice that was filed today in the Mayor Eric Adams case, that it's going to let you know that this has not been accepted by the court yet. In fact, if you go to the actual docket, it will show that it's just processing because the court is closed. So yes, we have another one. So I guess there are some people that you and I know that we may have grown up and seen in the 90s that are shaking in their boots, wondering if they're going to be next before the clock strikes midnight. That's what they're wondering. It is literally 24 hours left under this adult survivor statute. And yeah, this one is a bit detailed. It's not like Cassie's, but she did say that Cassie's lawsuit is the one that gave her the courage to go ahead and come forward and to write this and to file this lawsuit, which lets us know that that attorney has been working to get this lawsuit together, because she just filed it on the 16th. And this was filed today. So let's get into it. You guys know what to do. Make sure you like the video, subscribe. It helps us get in the algorithm so other people will know about our channel. We are consistently growing at a rapid rate, and we want to continue to grow. Thank you, guys. I see all your happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you all, too, for those that celebrated. Hopefully you guys were able to spend time with your family and friends and loved ones, and that you enjoyed your meal. But again, I am here. Like I told you earlier, I said it'll probably be 8, 9 o'clock that I'll be back if some more lawsuits are filed. And here we are, just as I said. Okay. Crystal W said, when you, Pam, when you have a few minutes, can you explain the statute and the time frame? I apologize if you already explained this. No worries, Crystal W. I know everybody isn't on here all the time. So the Adult Survivor Statute was enacted, and the purpose of it was to allow people to revive their claims that otherwise would have been um, it would have been disallowed in the courts. If it was filed, it would have been dismissed due to a statute of limitation. So you have statutes of limitations. Many torts are 3 years, and that's what an assault is, in order to file against the person who you're making an allegation against. Well, this statute was enacted, which gave you a year in order to file. So it was enacted, it went into effect. I think it was enacted in May of 2022, but it didn't go into effect until November 24th of 2022. And it allows you to file lawsuits within this year up until tomorrow. It allows you to file a lawsuit making these claims that would have otherwise been not wouldn't have been permitted because of the statute of limitation. So that's pretty much what the Adult Survivor Statute is in a nutshell. I've read it on the previous video. This is a 22-page lawsuit, and they explain it a little bit within the lawsuit. So hopefully that'll give you a little bit more meat of it. Hey, Sarah said, hey, all about the shade. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kate Hudson, for the compliment. I appreciate it. But let's get into it because I know you guys have things to do. I appreciate you guys tuning in on this holiday with your girl. It means a lot to me. But again, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that like button, okay? Okay. So this is the lawsuit that was filed, and it is Joy Dickerson, and it is against Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment, doing business as at Bad Boy Records, Combs Enterprises LLC, and the plaintiff is demanding a trial by jury. So we're going to start out with just the nature of the action. Crystal W, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your support. Okay. Let's get into it. So the nature of the claim is plaintiff brings suit against defendants to redress the substantial and lifetime injury she has suffered as a result of being drugged, assaulted, and abused, and being the victim of revenge porn that Sean Combs or P. Diddy created and distributed. Again, let me put my disclaimer. These are all just allegations. Diddy is going to have the right, and he's going to be, when he gets served or when the court processes this and he served this lawsuit, to respond to this lawsuit. So this is all one-sided. This is just an allegation. Have to reiterate that. Plaintiff complains pursuant to the New York Common Law, New York Social Services Law for Victims of Human Trafficking Law, New York State Civil Rights Law, the New York State Revenge Porn Law, the New York Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act, and the New York City Revenge Porn Law. So they're listing all the different laws that they're doing it under. And she seeks damages to redress the injury she has suffered as a result of being actually harassed, abused, and a victim of revenge porn. Preliminary statement. Joy Dickerson was a college student at Syracuse University, pursuing a degree in psychology and filled with hopes for a bright future. While Miss Dickerson did not come from a family with means, she was raised by a single mother who instilled in her high moral and ethical standards and a strong sense of civic duty. She was whip smart, beautiful, and aware that her good reputation was an important asset to be safeguarded. On January 3rd, 1991, so this is another one of those 30-year-old cases like with Mayor Adams. While on school break for the holidays, Miss Dickerson reluctantly agreed to an early dinner with Sean Combs or P. Diddy. They had many friends and acquaintances in common, and she had appeared with Combs in a few clips of a music video. After dining at the famous Wells restaurant in Harlem, home of chicken and waffles since 1938, Combs pushed Miss Wells to keep him company as he attended to a few things in the city. Getting into Combs' car that day was something Miss Dickerson would come to regret forever. During their date, Combs had intentionally drugged Miss Dickerson, resulting in her being in a physical state where she could not independently stand or walk. Driving first to a music studio where she could not get out of the car, Combs proceeded to a place he was staying to actually assault her. As was his practice, but unbeknownst to Miss Dickerson, Combs video recorded the assault. Days later, a male friend, and y'all gonna see who this male friend is, revealed to her that he had viewed the tape along with other men. Horrified, Miss Dickerson asked how many others saw it, to which he responded, everyone. Miss Dickerson's life went into a tailspin. She returned to college, but soon had to be admitted into the hospital for severe depression and suicide ideations. Unable to function, she dropped out of college. Miss Dickerson has struggled with her mental health and career progression thereafter. The actual assault and public exposure of it caused her to suffer overwhelming feelings of humiliation, embarrassment, violation, and constant apprehension about who all viewed it. As Combs' success and wealth rose quickly, she tried to block his existence out as she tried to put her life back on track. Still today, Ms. Dickerson continues to work on her emotional health, economic recovery, and finishing her college degree. Seeking accountability from Combs under the law is one more step in that journey. So that is the preliminary statement. And she gets a little deeper. So we're going to go into the procedural requirements. And that's when we get into the statutes that she and the others are doing this under. So the state and city claims are revived by the Adult Survivor Act. Plaintiff state law claims are timely under New York Adult Survivors Act, which beginning on November 24, 2022, created a 1-year look back window for the survivors of sexual assault that occurred when they were over the age of 18, allowing them to sue their abusers regardless of when the abuse occurred. The ASA allows survivors to sue for any intentional or negligent act or omission by a person for physical, psychological, or other injury or condition suffered as a result of conduct which would constitute an actual offense as defined in Article 130 of the Penal Law committed against such person who is 18 years of age or older. So for those that did not understand the Adult Survivors Act, this is a summary that they've done. We've actually read the statute. I don't think we need to do that because this spells it out pretty clearly and plainly on why these individuals are allowed to bring these lawsuits. So, plaintiff is a woman who is older than 18 who alleges penal law violations. So, those are criminal laws. So you have to prove that a crime that what she's alleging would be considered a crime under the statutes, the criminal statutes, if the statute of limitation hadn't expired. So she lists all of the different penal codes that would apply if she would have brought it back in 91 or whenever she's alleging this occurred. Okay, they missed the paragraph right there. Okay, courts have found that the ASA revives any civil claims that, quote, arise from conduct that constitutes a actual offense. And that's in Wilkie v. Ville of Hempstead. and that's a 2023 case and just came down June 20th of 2023 in the Eastern District of New York, which held that a plaintiff could bring false arrest and false imprisonment claims under the ASA, as those particular claims arise from conduct that constitutes an actual offense. Thus, plaintiffs' claims under the New York Common Law, the New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking Law, the New York State Revenge Porn Law, and the New York City Revenge Porn Law have been revived under the ASA as they arise out of conduct that constitutes an actual offense. So then the next statute is that revives it as well is the New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. The NYC Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act created a look back window on March 1st of 2023. So this is another statute which runs for 2 years for survivors of gender motivated violence, allowing them to sue their abusers regardless of when the abuse occurred. So that means if it was March 2023, then under this statute, claims may be brought for the next 2 years, so until March 2025. The NYC Gender Motivated Violence Act revised any claims against a party who commits, directs, enables, participates in, or conspires in the commission of a crime of violence motivated by gender, has a cause of action against such party in any court of competent jurisdiction. The appellate division has held that actual assault is an act of gender motivated violence under the law as, quote, coerced actual activity is dehumanizing and fear inducing. Malice or ill will based on gender is apparent from the alleged commission of the act itself. Animus adheres where consent is absent. In that case is Breest v. Haggis. The above described conduct of defendant Combs, including but not limited to defendant's physical and actual assaults of plaintiff in New York City, constitutes a crime of violence and a crime of violence motivated by gender against plaintiff as defined by the NYC Gender Motivated Violence Act. Then she goes in to talk about who P. Diddy is. For those that may not even know who P. Diddy is, I'm pretty sure the majority of you guys do, but there may be some that don't know who he is and what his background is and where he came from. So that's what she goes into when she goes over the parties. Make sure you guys hit the like button. I expect them to match all 875 of you that's in here. Hit that like button for me and subscribe. So let's hear about defendant Combs. Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy or Puff Daddy or Diddy, is a Grammy Award winning musician. At all relevant times, he was a resident of New York State. Prior to the release of Combs' debut album in 1997, Combs was a prominent member of the New York hip hop community. From 1990 to 1993, Combs was known for working as a talent director at Uptown Records. Combs also known for throwing parties that attracted thousands of attendees, including the who's who in the hip hop world. In 1992, Combs founded defendant Bad Boy Records. In 2008, Combs was the first male rapper to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Did you guys know that? 2008, he was the first male rapper to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. In 2022, Forbes estimated that Combs was one of the wealthiest hip-hop artists in America and that his net worth was over $1 billion. You said background hype, man. You know what, Tanya? Pappy said, take that, take that. I need you guys to focus here. We are on jury duty right now. I need you guys to focus on these allegations. They are serious. Upon information and belief, Combs has a history of committing physical and actual violence against women as documented in publicly available lawsuits and extensive media coverage. Then she goes on to list it, guys. She says on May 8, 2017, Cindy Rueda, Combs' personal chef filed a suit in the Superior Court of the state of California for the County of Los Angeles, alleging that he actually harassed her. In 2019, Gina Hunya, an ex-girlfriend of Combs, detailed in an interview how he physically abused her. On November 16, 2023, Cassie Ventura, an artist signed into Bad Boy Records, filed a suit in the Southern District of New York alleging that Combs forced her to film herself having sexual intercourse with a ex-worker. Given the extensive media coverage of Combs' abusive treatment of women, defendants Bad Boy Records and Combs Enterprise LLC had knowledge and were put on notice of the sexual abuse allegations made against him. So now she got information on defendant Bad Boy Entertainment. In 1992, Combs founded Bad Boy Records, a record label which has sold over 500 million records, and where he produced Mary J. Blige, the Notorious B.I.G., and Usher, or as Ludacris says, Ursher. Bad Boy Entertainment is a domestic limited liability company licensed to do business in New York. Defendant Combs Enterprise LLC. Combs Enterprise LLC is a domestic liability license to do business in New York. Upon information and belief, Combs Enterprise LLC is the parent company of Bad Boy Entertainment. We discussed that before. When you say upon information and belief, it's based on what maybe your research, but you're not necessarily certain. So you're letting the court know this is based on what I believe. We go into discovery and we find out that it may be different than what I believe. Combs Enterprise LLC is a business conglomerate founded by P. Diddy that does business in the music, entertainment, fashion, spirits, and television industries. Well, we also heard that the fashion is getting a little shaky now with the Sean John that I didn't even know people still wore. But thank you guys who told me that Sean John revamped 2-3 years ago, and apparently they do business attire for men and all of that. But listen, we don't even hardly have a Macy's. Like all of our Macy's here in Michigan, most of them have closed. There are a few that's open. So I still didn't understand why Macy's decided to announce that. But I digress. Let's go back to the complaint. Let's get on to the plaintiff because here are the factual allegations and here's our introduction. The plaintiff grew up in New York City and was raised by a single mother. In 1987, plaintiff began attending Syracuse University as she was inspired to attend after hearing stories about her late father, who had attended the university and had died the same year she was born. Plaintiff majored in psychology. Plaintiff was a hardworking student who balanced her studies while also working as a server at Wells Restaurant in Harlem, New York, to pay for her education. Plaintiff was looking to make a foothold in the music industry and had worked as a receptionist at Apple One, a renowned talent agency, and as a location scout for Gary Brewer, an industry cameraman. Plaintiff also collaborated with Chuck Stone, a film director, on music videos for Grammy awarding winning artists. I think it should have just been Grammy Award winning artists, A Tribe Called Quest, and Marcel. I don't know how to say that last name. Okay. You guys see it, big word. Ndegocello. Now let's get into plaintiff meets Sean Combs and learned of his reputation for abusing women. Okay. On repeated occasions, Combs pursued plaintiff for a romantic or sexual relationship. However, plaintiff had heard that Combs had a history of treating women badly and rejected Combs' advances each time. In fact, Sister Soldier, a rapper from the Bronx, pointedly asked plaintiff why she and Combs had been featured together in the music video for Straight from the Soul by Finesse and Sinquist. Plaintiff understood that Sister Soldier was warning her to stay away from Combs given his infamous reputation. So I need some of you intellects to go ahead and pull up Straight from the Soul video, because apparently there's a feature in there. Because she was asking the plaintiff, according to this, why she was in the video with Combs. But she took it like she was trying to warn her, I guess, about how Combs is. Plaintiff reluctantly agreed to go on a date with Combs, who actually assaulted her. Okay. Yes, I need you guys to hit that like button, please. Help your girl out. Okay. Finally, on January 3rd, 1991, during her winter break, Miss Dickerson reluctantly agreed to meet Combs in New York City. Again, wary of being alone with Combs, plaintiff chose Wells Restaurant in Harlem, New York, which was a familiar environment as she worked there as a server and knew the employees. At Wells, plaintiff began to feel more comfortable as her and Combs engaged in conversation over food and drinks. Later in the evening, plaintiff had to utilize the restroom and left her drink unattended. Combs indicated he did not want the date to end and asked plaintiff to join him in doing some errands he had to run around the city. While driving with Combs in his car, Combs produced a blunt and asked plaintiff to take a hit. Plaintiff politely declined, but Combs was insisting that plaintiff should, quote, roll with him, end quote, and promised to have her home at a decent time so she could study. Feeling pressured, plaintiff reluctantly took a hit of the blunt. From that point on, plaintiff's memory is incomplete. Plaintiff recalls Combs bringing her to a music studio, and when she attempted to exit the car, her legs felt rubbery and she was unable to stand. Plaintiff next recalls being outside of a residence where it seemed Combs was living, except he rang the doorbell. A man who was an acquaintance of both plaintiff and Combs answered the door. Plaintiff recalls that being odd, as she believed, perhaps mistakenly, that it was Combs' home. So she's saying they went to a house of an acquaintance of both of them. While in the home, Combs actually assaulted plaintiff. Plaintiff recalls feeling humiliated and hurt, yet she could not escape the assault because she had been drugged. Plaintiff lacked the physical ability or mental capacity to fend Combs off. The next day, plaintiff's area hurt in a way that she had never experienced from any prior consensual sexual encounters. Feeling confusion, pain, embarrassment, and shame, plaintiff did not go to the hospital or report the assault to the police and sought refuge in her apartment, avoiding any outside contact. The next day, plaintiff broke down and tearfully recalled Combs' sexual assault to her best friend. Shortly thereafter, Devontae Swing, a member of R&B group Jodeci, told plaintiff that Combs had filmed himself actually assaulting plaintiff and had showed the video to Swing and others while working at the studio. Plaintiff asked Swing who had seen the video, and he replied, everyone. Plaintiff was mortified as she learned that Combs had filmed the assault and knew it would haunt her for the rest of her life and career. Swing told plaintiff that he wanted to speak up against Combs, but he was fearful that the band would lose their record deal. Devontae, we need you to come to the bench. We need you to come to the bench. Jodeci was in the midst of recording their studio album Forever My Lady, for which Combs was doing A&R. Y'all remember Forever My Lady? Y'all remember that song? So he basically, according to her, knew and recorded this alleged assault. And he said, baby girl, I know we cool and all, but I don't want to ruin our album. We got to get Forever Our Lady up out of here. And we don't want him to hold up our record, like our album to come out. So I'm not gonna say anything. Devontae, you're gonna have to come up to the front of the bench. You're gonna have to approach. Ray Bishop said this reads like a story. It does. Maria said everyone turned a blind eye. Poppy said so he likes taping and showing people. Apparently, according to this young lady, she said that she learned that this is what he does, that he tapes his alleged escapades. That's what I said. I said, wow, what? I Devontae, I am just I did anybody got his number? Because we might need to call Devontae because we need to know. We need to know what's going on and why you were looking at your album allegedly and not helping your friend. Thank you, Rhonda, so much for the Cash App. I appreciate it. Anybody got his phone number? Because we're gonna have to call him. We're gonna have to reach out to Devontae because I what? Y'all said he a victim of Diddy too. Devontae? Wait a minute. Where do we have this is allegedly? Where do we get this information at? I've never heard that. Y'all listen, Your Honor, we would not like to call Devontae Swing of R&B group Jodeci to the stand. Absolutely. What? Oh, we got to do some more digging and research. I had not, I never heard that before. Okay, let's go on. Okay, that just kind of stuck for a minute. Following Combs' assault, plaintiff suffered an emotional breakdown. In the coming weeks, plaintiff did her best to pull herself together so she could return to Syracuse University. Despite this, plaintiff experienced traumatic flashbacks to the assault, extreme sleeplessness for days on end, social withdrawal, and would recoil at even the most basic physical touch. Plaintiff felt physically unable to leave her dorm at Haven Hall, thus, she was frequently absent from her classes. Plaintiff also had an inability to focus and concentrate as her mind constantly replayed Combs' assault, leading her grades to plummet. Plaintiff's mother grew so concerned with plaintiff's sudden downturn in her emotional state and her repeated assertions that she no longer wanted to live. Thus, plaintiff's mother instructed her to go to the emergency room. Plaintiff was admitted into a psychiatric unit to treat her emotional trauma, and her physicians diagnosed her as experiencing clinical depression. After plaintiff was discharged, she continued to experience emotional turmoil as everyday interactions triggered memories of the assault. Plaintiff also became socially isolated as her classmates labeled her as, quote, crazy as they learned of her admission to the psychiatric unit. Wow. Interesting. LaShonda said, I thought she didn't remember anything yet had flashbacks of the assault. I'm going to assume that, and I don't know. I'm just, I always have to give the other side. Perhaps it was you repress it. And then as she came to herself, because it seems like she was drugged, according to her. So maybe she was having dreams or recalling it, or it was coming back to her memory or something. I don't know. And Q Dilla said, who just watches Assault and's like, yep, I'ma still work with him. Apparently, in this here music industry, people are about themselves allegedly if these allegations that have been waged against various individuals are true. Some people are worried about themselves, and yeah. But you know, Devontae, like you put Devontae's name in here, so you already know he gonna be the first one coming up. He gonna first one they're gonna call, or maybe he already said he'll come and talk because he feel bad that he didn't talk back in the day. Cynthia said things can trigger memories. I'm sure you said that better than I did. I took the long route home. But yeah, that's pretty much what I was saying. That I think there may be some things that trigger, and I'm not a psychologist. I don't profess to be. We're called attorney and counselors, but our counseling is not like a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So you keep saying that sci-fi, but I'm trying to ask you before you make those type of allegations. Where's your authority? Do we have an interview that Devontae did? Do we have an article that came out? Do we have a lawsuit that he filed? Like, where's your authority saying that? Is what I'm saying. So if anybody has any authority, because we don't just go on, a lot of people hear a lot of stuff. We would need something that will corroborate what you're saying. So plaintiffs sought justice against Combs for assaulting her. So this is I thought was interesting. As plaintiff began to recover, she desperately sought to hold Combs to account for the crimes he committed against her. Plaintiff's mom told her to contact Pastor Calvin Butts of the historic Abyssinian Church in Harlem, New York. However, plaintiff felt too ashamed to speak with Pastor Butts as she worried he would judge her. Plaintiff filed police reports in New York and New Jersey and spoke to several prosecutors hoping to press charges. If she filed police reports related to this incident, those police reports should still be there. Now, prosecutors in the 90s may have retired. Prosecutors, their memory is a little short. They don't really remember. They say, we got 2,000 cases. We don't know what we did 20 years ago. I get that a lot in what I do in my area of practice. But police reports, that's a document that should still be available. Members of law enforcement told plaintiff that her allegations would need to be corroborated by witnesses and others who had experienced similar assaults. That's interesting instructions. Plaintiff also approached various friends, acquaintances, and colleagues to assist her in locating the revenge porn tape. Colleagues told plaintiff that they were terrified that Combs will retaliate against them and that they would lose future business and music opportunities if they made a statement in support of plaintiff as Combs' star was on the rise in the 1990s. Combs had experienced great success with the launch of the career of the notorious B.I.G., whose hit single Juicy had charted on Billboard. Some potential witnesses were afraid of Combs. I'm sorry, let me read that again. Some potential witnesses were afraid of Combs' rap, as he was known to be violent, while others declined because they feared they would not be invited to his future parties and events. Combs tried to dissuade plaintiff from reporting him. I really hope, again, these are just allegations, that she does have some people now that are willing to corroborate, because the fact that she has had some psychological issues that will be used against her. That a lot of this stuff you were just, because there are people like that. I showed you guys a lawsuit, didn't I, earlier, about how there are people out here who file a bunch of lawsuits against a bunch of artists and they make all these claims, and a lot of stuff is some mental health issues as to why they file them. So because she's acknowledging she has a record of psychiatric care, I'm sure that will probably be one of the defenses. So I hope that people, if they witness this, if this is true, would come forward and feel that they no longer are afraid, if that was really the reasoning why they didn't say anything. Jodeci, they are my cousins. All of them. All of Jodeci isn't related, are they? I thought only JoJo and Casey. I thought they were the only ones that were related. Okay, guys. Combs tried to dissuade plaintiff from reporting him. Despite her emotional pain, plaintiff continued to work in the music industry and began working for Stress Management, a DJ management company that represented DJ Funkmaster Flex and others. I remember Funkmaster Flex coming to my school when I was younger. At Stress Management, plaintiff supervisor was Jessica Rosenblum, who was known for creating Mecca, a party series where many of New York's hip hop legends performed. Plaintiff helped promote Rosenblum's parties and also acted as her personal assistant by completing any errands she had. One night, plaintiff was working at one of Rosenblum's parties when she unfortunately ran into Combs and did her best to avoid talking with him. Despite plaintiff's efforts, Combs backed plaintiff into a corner and inappropriately confronted her in public. Combs dramatically got down on his knees before insisting that he wanted her to believe him when he said he did not do what she was saying. Rosenblum noticed Combs' odd behavior and asked why he was begging her for forgiveness. Plaintiff merely told Rosenblum that Combs had wronged her and she was afraid of divulging more, as Rosenblum often worked with Diddy. Plaintiff left the music industry as Diddy's rise was too painful to witness. After working for Stress Management, plaintiff began writing music video treatments. However, plaintiff realized that she could not continue to work in the music industry as Combs' star continued to rise and his presence was inescapable. Plaintiff decided to try her hands at screenwriting and ended up moving to California, moving thousands of miles from the location of the assault. Plaintiff had always wanted to work at a record label, but she knew that dream had I don't know what that's supposed to be, cratered maybe. As Combs continued to garner multi-platinum albums and win Grammys. Plaintiff's emotional trauma resurges. Plaintiff has spent years trying to recover from the emotional trauma she experienced at Combs' hands. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Plaintiff spent hours rereading her journals and digitizing them. However, she felt physically ill once she reached the time period in which she met Combs. Plaintiff could not stomach continuing with the project. It was the filing of this lawsuit about the abuse of Cassie Ventura on November 16, 2023, that forced her to face his assault again. After reading about the lawsuit, plaintiff spoke to an ex-boyfriend for the first time in years after reading Miss Ventura's lawsuit. During that conversation, plaintiff's ex recalled how she would become physically ill and recoil every time Combs' music was played as his name was mentioned. Still hoping for justice, plaintiff brings his case against Combs now. While many years have passed, Combs' illegal conduct has cast a shadow over her life. Years later, plaintiff has continued to see mental health providers who have aided in her recovery and treated her PTSD. Tragically, despite several attempts, plaintiff has not been able to finish her college degree as her subconscious associates her studies with the assault. Combs' conduct forever changed the trajectory of her career, denying her what might have been a lucrative and successful career in the music industry. Plaintiff is confident She can prove her case through at least a dozen witnesses to testify to her severe emotional distress and harm that she experienced after the assault. So apparently, it sounds like she may have some people that said they're not going to be cowards anymore and they're going to come forward and they are going to attest to some of the allegations that she is making. You are love you for providing us layman legal insight. Thank you, Dizzyville. I appreciate that. Tony B said Tyler Perry is working on a script right now. Kat said, I never liked Puffy after I was at his City College show and almost lost my life. Oh my goodness, Kat, you have to elaborate on that. Was it wild? Was it not enough security? That's a lot. Sis Zakia said people have been bumping old LSA threads. There is a lot of info from years ago. Wow. Nope, this complaint for whoever just came in, Christine, no worries. You're not late. You're right on time. This complaint was filed today on Thanksgiving. And actually, the complaint that Cassie filed, she alleges prompted her to file this lawsuit and to have the courage to file. Note tomorrow at midnight. Well, 11:59. They have till tomorrow at 11:59, where everybody's probably sitting there shaking in their boots because they don't know what they was doing in the 90s. You said three. Who was behind the Devontae Swing robbery and did Tupac have 4 songs with him? Thank you, Natural Diva, for this $20 super chat. I really appreciate you. Will Gene Deal file a lawsuit? I don't know who that is. Who is that? Tony, help me out. You guys have to understand, I grew up in the church. My daddy is a pastor. So all of these people in the 90s, I was sneaking to listen to, okay? So I may not know everybody. I bump it loud now, but back then I had to sneak. You know, you couldn't listen to no secular music when you had a saved household. Dr. Ron Harris said R. Kelly said there's a lot guilty. Oh, okay. So Gene, the security guy that's been doing the interviews that have been coming down our timelines. Got you. Thank you, NRP. I appreciate it. Courtney Makeupson said Jennifer Lopez had problems with finding P. Diddy's going. Whoa. Really? Okay, Courtney. I wonder how he treated Keisha Cole. Okay, guys. Thank you guys for refreshing my recollection on Gene. I just really didn't know his name. I just knew him as Puffy's bodyguard, so that's why I had no clue. Okay, let's go to the causes of action. As a first cause of action, assault and battery under the New York common law. In performing the conduct described above, defendant Combs committed assault and battery against plaintiff because he intentionally engaged in unlawful, intentional, and offensive touching or application of force to plaintiff's person. Defendant's actions amount to violations. And then they have all the New York Penal Code. You guys see all those numbers right there. As a result of defendant's Combs' alleged conduct, plaintiff has suffered physical injury, severe emotional distress, humiliation, embarrassment, anxiety, economic harm, and other consequential damages. The conduct of defendant Combs described above was willful, wanton, and malicious. At all relevant times, Combs acted with conscious disregard of plaintiff's rights and feelings acted with the knowledge of or with reckless disregard for the fact that his conduct was certain to cause injury and or humiliation to plaintiff and intended to cause fear, physical injury, and or pain and suffering to plaintiff. By virtue of the foregoing, plaintiff is entitled to recover punitive and exemplary damages from defendant Combs at trial. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. This is against all defendants. Defendant Combs engaged in outrageous conduct by unlawfully administering to plaintiff a narcotic or intoxicating substance, transporting her, forcing her to engage in sexual intercourse, creating a video recording of the intercourse, and distributing the recording throughout New York State without her consent. Boy, boy. Defendant Combs' actions were intended to cause harm to plaintiff or reckless disregarded the substantial possibility of causing plaintiff severe emotional distress. As a result of defendant Combs' alleged conduct, plaintiff has suffered physical injuries, severe emotional distress, humiliation, embarrassment, anxiety, economic harm, and other consequential damages. As to the third cause of action, this is against all defendants. She's alleging trafficking under the New York Service for Victims of Human Trafficking law. Plaintiff is a victim of trafficking within the meaning of New York Penal Law Section 230.34 and is therefore entitled to bring a civil action under the New York Social Services Law. Defendants unlawfully administered to plaintiff a narcotic or intoxicating substance in New York State, transported her, forced her to engage in intercourse, and made a video recording of the revenge porn, which he distributed throughout New York State, all without her consent. As a direct and proximate cause of defendant's unlawful conduct, as alleged herein above, plaintiff has suffered physical injury, severe emotional distress and anxiety, humiliation, embarrassment, post-traumatic stress disorder, emotional harm, and other consequential damages. Plaintiff seeks reasonable attorney fees and litigation costs, including but not limited to expert witness fees and expenses. As to her third cause of action, I thought that did say third up there. It's 2/3 causes. Okay. They had to get it done today. I get it. You're going to have a few mistakes. So that's the first cause of action. This is the second cause of action. This is the third cause of action. This should be the fourth cause of action. New York State revenge porn law. The same force and effect. Okay, wait a minute. New York State civil rights law against revenge porn provides in pertinent part. Any person depicted in a still or video image, regardless of whether or not the original still or video image was consensually obtained, shall have a cause of action against an individual who, for the purpose of harassing, annoying, or alarming such person, disseminated or published or threatened to disseminate or publish such still or video image where such image A was taken when such person had a reasonable expectation that the image would remain private, and B depicts an unclothed or exposed intimate part of such person, or such person engaged in sexual conduct as defined in subdivision 10 of section 130.00 of the Penal Code law with another person, and C was disseminated or published or threatened to be disseminated or published without the consent of such person. Plaintiff was depicted in a video image in which Combs engaged in sexual contact with her as defined under the New York Penal Law, and or in which plaintiff's body was unclothed or her, I think that meant intimate parts were exposed. It says inmate parts. I'm assuming it means intimate. I understand, counsel. You was trying to get this done on Thanksgiving. Might be a few little typos. Plaintiff did not consent to the depiction as she was mentally incapacitated, as plaintiff was rendered temporarily incapable of consenting to sexual contact, as defendant Combs administered to her a narcotic or intoxicating substance without her consent. Additionally, plaintiff was mentally incapacitated as plaintiff was rendered temporarily and capable of consenting to being featured in an intimate visual depiction as defendant Combs administered to her narcotics or intoxicating substance without her consent. As Combs administered to plaintiff a narcotic or intoxicating substance without her consent, Combs knowingly, willfully, and or recklessly disregarded that plaintiff did not consent to the intimate visual depiction. Combs disseminated or published the video without plaintiff's consent in order to harass, annoy, or alarm plaintiff. Combs disseminated or published the video without plaintiff's consent to her colleagues in order to cause her economic, physical, or substantial emotional harm. Plaintiff would be identifiable to others from the intimate images or from the circumstances in which Combs disclosed the images to colleagues of plaintiff. Under the New York State Civil Rights Law, Chapter 6, Article 5, Section 52-B, plaintiff is entitled to an award of compensatory and punitive damages, injunctive and declaratory relief, attorney fees, reasonable court costs, and other remedies as this court may deem appropriate damages. Okay, this is really the fifth cause of action, the NYC Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. The above described conduct of defendant Combs, including but not limited to defendant Combs' physical and actual assault of plaintiff in New York City, constitutes a crime of violence against plaintiff and is a crime of violence motivated by gender. Defendant Combs' crime of violence were motivated by plaintiff's gender as defined in the New York City Administrative Code. As defendant Combs committed forcible acts upon plaintiff. The above described conduct of defendant Combs constitutes actual offenses as defined in Article 130 of the New York Penal Law. Upon information and belief, defendant Combs' acts of physical assault illustrate that he is a misogynist who took pleasure in hurting women, and thus his assaults were gender motivated. Furthermore, defendant's Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Combs Enterprise LLC enabled defendant Combs' commission of the crimes of violence motivated by gender and thus are liable under NYC Victims of Gender Motivated Protection Act, despite the fact that it was an, quote, open secret that Combs abused women, they continue to employ him. Y'all know what you thought? Puffy was gonna like fire himself or something? As a direct and proximate result of the aforementioned crime of violence and gender motivated violence, plaintiff has sustained and will continue to sustain monetary damages, physical injury, pain and suffering, and serious psychological and emotional distress, entitling her to an award of compensatory and punitive damages, injunctive and declaratory relief, attorney fees and costs, and other remedies as this court may deem appropriate damages, as set forth in Section 10-1104. The sixth cause of action is New York revenge porn against all defendants. Oh, is that the same thing? NYC Admin Code Section 10-180. It is unlawful for a covered recipient to disclose an intimate image without the depicted individual's consent with the intent to cause economic, physical, or substantial emotional harm to such depicted individual. Where such depicted individual is or would be identifiable to another individual, either from the intimate image or from the circumstances under which such image is disclosed. Pursuant to NYC Admin Code Section 10-180 sub D, plaintiff brings a civil cause of action for violations for the above referenced law. Plaintiff was depicted in a video image in which Combs engaged in sexual contact with her as defined under the New York Penal Law and or in which plaintiff's body was unclothed or her inmate parts were exposed. Plaintiff did not consent to the depiction as she was mentally incapacitated, as plaintiff was rendered temporarily incapable of consenting to actual contact as defendant Combs administered to her a narcotic or intoxicating substance without her consent. That's an extra T right there. Additionally, plaintiff was mentally incapacitated as plaintiff was rendered temporarily incapable of consenting to being featured in intimate visual depiction as defendant Combs administered to her a narcotic or intoxicating substance without her consent. As Combs administered to plaintiff a narcotic or intoxicating substance without her consent, Combs knowingly, willfully, and/or recklessly disregarded that plaintiff did not consent to the intimate visual depiction. Combs disseminated or published the video without plaintiff's consent in order to harass, annoy, or alarm plaintiff after she refused his advances. Combs disseminated or published the video without plaintiff's consent to her colleagues in order to cause her economic, physical, or substantial emotional harm. Plaintiff would be identifiable to others from the intimate image or from the circumstances in which Combs disclosed the images to colleagues of plaintiff. As a direct and proximate result of the aforementioned actions, plaintiff has sustained and will continue to sustain monetary damages, physical injury, pain and suffering, and serious psychological and emotional distress. Under New York State Civil Rights Law, Chapter 6, plaintiff is entitled to an award of compensatory, punitive, injunctive, declaratory relief, attorney fees, reasonable court costs, and other remedies as this court may deem appropriate, and damages. Plaintiff demands a trial by jury. Let me go back to some of these comments. Does the statute of limitation expire at midnight or tomorrow? I don't know how New York counts their days, but if they count their days, it would end like tomorrow would be the last day that you can file. If that's how I'm thinking they count their days. Could Faith Evans get a subpoena? That's what Tony B asked. When you're in litigation, if you think that Faith Evans has any information that can lead to admissible evidence, it doesn't even have to be admissible evidence that she has. If you think she may lead you to someone who may know someone who knows someone, then yes, anybody is subject to be subpoenaed. Now, if she said, I don't know nothing, I don't know nobody or any of that, then I'm sure she will have an attorney, especially if she don't want to be involved in this stuff, where she'll try to do a motion to quash that subpoena and give the reasons why she shouldn't be subpoenaed because she doesn't know anything. But alternatively, I mean, generally speaking, I would say discovery is so broad that typically you can subpoena and depose whoever, as long as, they may say they don't know anything. They may plead the fifth. We don't know what these people are going to do. They don't want to feel like they're responsible. This brings a whole lot of issues when you bring these type of claims. Yeah. Mindful Moment said, thank you for constantly bringing your gravitas, grace, and know-how to law. We need more Black people in these spaces. Thank you so much for the compliment. One article I read on Google said tonight at midnight, so I'm not sure. Well, it's till the 20th. What's today? The 23rd. So it depends on if it expires on the 24th, where really that means it would expire today. If that's the case, it would expire tonight. I was thinking it expires tomorrow, but it's all about how you count the days. And I don't know how they count the days there. If it were here in Michigan, it would expire tomorrow at 11:59. But yeah. Hi, welcome. You guys welcome LA film scene. Said they're new here. Cynthia said people are going to be eating into Puffy's billions. I think he might want to purchase a modest house and one of his children's name now in a car. I see Puffy taking a serious financial hit soon. Yes. You said it's the same in New York? Okay. Listen, I don't profess to practice everywhere, so I'll tell you some of this stuff I do. If I have time, I'll look up so I can make sure that I'm giving you their rules and their law. But if I haven't looked it up, Hey, I've been eating macaroni and cheese and all of that like everybody else today. I was at my brother's house. And so I let everyone know that I knew that this lawsuit was filed and that I would go tonight when I got back home. But so I've been Thanksgiving it too, just like you guys. So Sharon said Puffy gonna have to liquidate some stuff. Yes. Okay. Life Point said there have been at least 5 new cases against different individuals today hitting the news. I heard about a few of them yesterday. We discussed it, but as fast as I post that I'm going to talk about one of the people, it seems like another lawsuit happens. Like I can't even keep up. That's why I was like, just DM me, guys. Just DM me if you see another lawsuit, and I'll see if I can look it up. Most of these again are going to be in New York. California has oop, California has a statute as well, so it's going to be interesting to see. A spokesperson for Diddy denies all claims in the sexual assault lawsuit. Per the New York Post, a spokesperson for Diddy has released a statement denying all claims made by Joy Dickerson Neal. Quote, this last minute lawsuit is an example of how a well intentioned law can be turned on its head. Miss Dickerson's 32-year-old story is made up and not credible. Mr. Combs never assaulted her, and she implicates companies that did not exist. This is purely a money grab and nothing more. That is from the spokesperson for Sean. Oh. So let's read the prayer for relief. We've been on here for over an hour. It's 1,700 of you guys. Please make sure you hit the like button so that your girl can get in the algorithm and other people can find my platform. Thank you so much. Prayer for relief. Wherefore, plaintiff respectfully requests a judgment against the defendants, declaring that defendants engaged in unlawful practices prohibited by the New York Common Law, the New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking Law, New York State Revenge Porn Law, the New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act, and the New York City Revenge Porn Law, and the defendant Combs sexually assaulted plaintiff and that defendant engaged in the unlawful distribution of intimate visual depictions, aka revenge porn, without consent. B, awarding plaintiff compensatory damages for mental and emotional injury, distress, pain, and suffering, injury to her reputation in an amount to be proven, awarding plaintiff damages for defendant's breach of contract. Defendant's breach of contract. I didn't see that in the complaint, but okay. Awarding plaintiff punitive damages, awarding plaintiff attorney fees, costs, and expenses incurred in the prosecution of this action, awarding plaintiffs such other and further relief as the court may deem equitable, just, and proper to remedy defendants' unlawful practices. You know, guys, she gives some really detailed information in here, but I believe this will be a case that this is not a Cassie case where you have people that's out here corroborating. They're coming out saying we know she was abused. We said it years ago, and people coming out with their own stories, her shaving her head, that type of a thing. This is a case of which it's going to be he said, she said, unless you get Devontae to come forward. Now, Devontae say, I don't even know her, and I don't know what you're talking about. She's going to be hit. Um, Sister Soldier or whoever else that she named, if you don't get anybody that can help corroborate you, unfortunately, this is going to be a toughie. Unfortunately or fortunately, because again, I don't know what's true and what's not true. We're just trying to sort through it. Diddy has vehemently denied it. And he denied Cassie's too, but his spokesperson came out and said this is a money grab. He says she implicates companies that did not exist. So I am going to assume that some of the companies that he has on there, perhaps they weren't already registered at the time, is what they're saying. I don't know exactly what that means that his spokesperson is saying, but this may be a case that he actually fights. Same thing when we went over Jamie Foxx yesterday. I told you guys that it was some holes. People were mad at me coming at me in the comments. And this is why I was very clear that when you deal with the legality of things, you got to take your emotions out of it. Morally, we can say whatever and how we feel. I believe them. You know, I went through that. I didn't say no, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. But from a legal standpoint, you have to prove it. And you have to have the ability to prove it. And that's the legality of it. Apparently, according to a statement from Jamie Foxx, he alleges, or his attorney alleges, that there was already a lawsuit filed by this person before. Let me pull up what he said exactly. Let me see. Spokesperson for Jamie Foxx denies all claim. Jamie Foxx is denying all accusations made against him that alleges he assaulted a woman at a New York City restaurant in 2015. And the statement from his spokesperson told at People the alleged incident never happened. In 2020, this individual filed a nearly identical lawsuit in Brooklyn. If she filed an identical lawsuit in Brooklyn, that's easy to verify and to pull. According to Jamie Foxx's spokesperson, that case was dismissed shortly thereafter. I don't know why it was dismissed, if she just dismissed it on her own or if he filed for a dismissal. They didn't give much information. The claims are no more viable today than they were then. It continued, we are confident they will be dismissed again. And once they are, Mr. Fox intends to pursue a claim for malicious prosecution against this person and her attorneys for refiling this frivolous action. And this goes to what I was telling you guys earlier. I do believe this statute had good intentions, and there are people that don't have the courage to come forward. So I understand what it was trying to do. But there also needed to be, in my opinion, just like the defamation statute, that if someone is able to get your claims dismissed, then there will be a repercussion to it, meaning you got to pay their attorney fees. Because what it will do is it will weed out. Well, you're going to get some people that just don't care. They have 50,000 judgments, so they don't really care about having a punishment of attorney fees. But what it will more than likely do is it would have weeded out some people, because attorneys would have been like, I'm not about to file that lawsuit and I might get hit and have to pay attorney fees and pay their attorney fees. So not only am I not going to get paid for filing this lawsuit on your behalf and spending the money to file the lawsuit, I got to pay your attorney fee. And most of these celebrities, they don't have cheap attorneys. All their attorneys, they use the same attorneys. If their attorney's out of California and they're sued in New York, they're going to use their same attorneys out of California. They're going to pro hoc vice in if they're not admitted already. And then you're going to pay their high hourly rates. They might spend $50,000 just to file, just to do one motion. They may charge up to $50,000 and be able to justify it because of how long it took them to respond to your complaint. So I think it should have been that, because you know you're going to get these type of people. I think when it came to Bill Cosby, that's why we had so many different people that came forward. Some people acknowledged that they lied and they dropped it. But this is kind of what happens. You have to have a safeguard too. You have to have a balance, in my opinion. So you're going to get some that seem a little shaky, and you're going to get some that you're like, dang, That was quick, like the Cassie thing. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of this case. Agreed. You just do not want anyone to be able to tarnish your name. But yes, because it's public record and you can't take that back. I think there's some people that can ask to get it sealed, stricken from the record. I would, ask to get it stricken because these are out here. And again, they're just allegations. But we all have access to it because it's public record. Again, this has not been accepted by the court, but we still able to pull it. No, I never discussed Tiffany Haddish. No. I don't even know if I had a channel. I haven't been a channel that long. I know it might seem like but I haven't. I had a situation that I wish I had filed a suit over 35 years ago. I learned that the perpetrator died about 5 years ago, and I was relieved and re traumatized at the same time. It brought it all back. I'm sorry to hear that I am worthy. Sorry to hear that. You said Wells Restaurant closed in 1982. Okay, let's see. What's the name? You said Wells. Let me go back. That's why I said it's clear that she does suffer from some mental health issues. And whether the cause of that was because of Diddy, allegedly, but if it wasn't because of Diddy, then obviously they're going to argue that all of this is because she has some mental health challenges. So that's why I said this one, even though she does give names, I would hope that the attorney has talked to people that are willing to come forward because this is just um a little a little, you know. Oh, let me see. Because I need Devontae. You need to go ahead and give one of the intellects a call because we need to know what do you have to say about this. So you said the Wells restaurant in Harlem. Has anyone been at that restaurant before? Have you eaten there? Let's see. The Wells in Harlem. The full name. Oh wow, it does say that. So, whoa. So I Googled it, right? You guys Google the Wells restaurant in Harlem. So it has the full name was Wells Restaurant, but to those in the know, it was just plain Wells for more than 40 years until it closed in 1982. It was one of the hot spots of Harlem. The Apollo, the Harlem Club, the Savoy, those were the places people went first. Wells was, but then let me see. They're trying to full name. Wait a minute, because it looks like the title was Harlem Hotspot to try a comeback. Occasionally. Now Wells may rise again. At a recent town meeting in Harlem, city officials announced a plan to help resurrect the restaurant nightclub on Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard between 132nd and 133rd Street, and with it, the hopes of a still blighted section of Harlem, a little piece of history. The plan involves loans from two city agents. So it looks like they might have reopened it. Yeah, it looks like it did close, but it just didn't reopen in the same location, according to this New York Times article from 1984. This is December 2nd, 1984 article. She got a check stub from there. Yeah, it looks like it was reopened the way I read it. Now I don't know what happened. Um, oh, wow. Famous for chicken and waffles. Yes. Sharon said, I just don't see Diddy letting any. You know what he'll probably do though? So you guys know, if you guys don't, Kevin Hart was sued for, remember in I think 2017, there was a big scandal where he ended up cheating on his wife, and he alleged that his friend JT Johnson was trying to blackmail him to take the video, to release the video and all of that, and he wouldn't do it. So that's why it got released. I believe JT Jackson was actually acquitted of that because that was a crime. But the lady who he had the affair with, she brought a lawsuit against Kevin Hart, JT Johnson, and other individuals claiming that Kevin Hart videotaped, like did it on purpose, videotaped it like a revenge porn thing. So that case was actually dismissed in June. It was dismissed real quietly because I was going to try to do a follow up on it. I still might. But that case ended up being dismissed. It was a civil lawsuit in California. In that lawsuit, though, because Kevin kept trying to file motions to dismiss and all of that, part of his motions he would file would limit the discovery because he knew that they may try to dig in and get more information than what is necessary just because of who he is. So they did not want to show how much money he made until or unless he was actually found liable. So there's ways, I say all that just to say there are ways to try to limit the discovery if it seems like it's being used to harass, annoy, embarrass someone. But you do have to file motions. But generally, again, when it comes to discovery, it's far reaching. You can have, if it's evidence that might lead to more evidence. So I don't know. This may be one that Diddy is like, you can't prove this. And he's also going to be entitled to all of her psychiatric records. So if she had any psychiatric issues before, he's going to be entitled to get those because she did make that as an issue in her complaint. So it may be like that on both sides. So it'll be interesting. I just think this might be a case that he actually tries to fight if he served it. I don't think this will be a 24-hour settlement unless he just wanted to go away and he give a couple of dollars and say, listen, I'll pay you 20,000, but because I don't want to have to pay my lawyer 200,000 to defend me in this lawsuit. But otherwise, I see him and I see Jamie Foxx both fighting these cases. I don't think he wants to go to discovery. Can of worms, worse for him. His lawyers will try to, because of his celebrity status, his lawyers is going to try to probably file motions every chance they get to try to limit the amount of discovery that they're able to get. Vernicia said that's why you tell the majority up front, like Cassie did. What about her journals? If real, do they hold weight? That's interesting. I mean, it's contemporaneous writing, depends on when she wrote it. It would be a lot into that. But it's still her word. It corroborates her. Like it's more still her voice. She needs corroboration. And according to her, the police was saying we need other people to corroborate when she was coming to them because it was just her words and there were no other evidence that showed that happened. Diddy has a whole storage facility full of skeletons. Oh my. Really, Sis Sakina? Zakia? Oh wow. Listen, at this point, Diddy probably has Olivia Pope on speed dial because that's the only one that could really help him. Because Olivia Pope was really based off of a real crisis manager. Okay, let me see if I missed anything. Okay, you said chicken and waffles at Wells were the bomb. Okay. Kevin has a scandal with that car accident. Yep, heard that too. Well, Kevin denied that he even knew that it was being recorded. So he denied all the allegations. But he was actually the only one left in the lawsuit up to trial. He was left in the lawsuit. All the rest, JT got dismissed on a summary judgment. Everybody got dismissed before the actual trial. They were able to file motions and get out of the lawsuit. Kevin Hart was not out of that lawsuit. What happened is in June, they had a scheduled date for a trial. The plaintiff didn't even show up for the trial. So they ended up dismissing the case. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for spending an hour and a half with your girl. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I hope you guys appreciated the content. Again, I don't expect you to enjoy it because of the context of the content, but I want to keep you guys make sure that you guys are up on all these lawsuits until this statute actually expires. I'm sure there's probably some more being filed as we talk right now. And so we'll probably discuss them again as well. Katrina, oops, sorry. Katrina said Diddy stayed drugged up, so he might settle because he probably doesn't remember everyone he's been with. And just because your dad worked for Frank Lucas doesn't mean you're untouchable. Okay, Katrina Taylor, I got you. Thank you for listening to my coverage. I appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful night. I'm about to go eat some more food again. Make sure you hit the like on the way out if you haven't done so already. Thanks again for the super chats, the members, the cash apps, all of that good stuff. I appreciate you guys. Tell people about the channel. Don't just keep me to yourself. What are you waiting on? All right, guys. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Have a good night.